If you start to have doubts about what you're doing or you have thoughts, I mean, that's your instinct, that's your soul, that's your insides delivering you information, and you need to recognize that and not just ignore it or make it go away. And that's hard. I mean, you have to, that's the first step is to see the problem. Most people don't even understand they have a problem. If you're unhappy with your life, and unhappy is a big word, but if you're not satisfied with what you're doing in your life, and you have got some ideas, I don't care, that can be your relationships, where you're living, your career, whatever, then you've got to listen to that. And I can tell you, I can give you some tips. You have an inner you, and some people call it an inner child. Write yourself a question with your dominant hand. So you say, "Dear little Aaron, I know you're upset about your career, and you'd like to make films instead of shooting people like Keir and Chris Doe in a little office somewhere. Can you tell me but I'm not able to make any changes. Could you tell me what you know about that?" Then you can take your opposite hand. So if you're right-handed, you would take your left. If you're left-handed, you would take your right. And just don't think about it, just scribble out what the answer is, and you'll be shocked at what you hear. So you might hear something, and I'm basing this not on Aaron's experience, on my own, is it might say, "Well, Mom said you should never do that. You'll never be good enough. You should never take a risk. You will amount to nothing. And, you need to have a job, and you need to have a paycheck. And if you don't have a paycheck, you're going to die, and you're not going to eat." And it'll come back. It'll come roaring back to you if you practice this, believe me. Let's take a story that we all know. We've seen it many times, The Wizard of Oz. Probably one of the great movies of all time. In The Wizard of Oz, as you remember, Dorothy is taken away by a hurricane or a tornado to the land of Oz, and she runs into the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. And they all are lacking something in their lives. I think the lion is lacking courage, the Tin Man lacks a heart. I don't remember what the straw guy, the brain, he lacks a brain. So they go on this journey. And we'll talk about the journey too, because that's another way to look at your own life. This Joseph Campbell's journey, which has been around long before Joseph Campbell, is another way. But anyway, they make the journey, and they go to the wizard, and they get in there, and the wizard gives them another challenge, and they meet that challenge, and then they come back. And then Toto knocks down the screen, and behind the screen is the wizard, who's this little guy. And he says famously, "Pay no attention to the little man behind the screen." And they're all very angry now because they've risked their lives to get the answer to their problems. Dorothy wants to return home, and the other three want these things. And the Wizard of Oz says to each one of them, to the Cowardly Lion, "You always had courage, it's always within you. But to remind you have courage," and he takes like this Valentine type heart, and he puts a chain and he puts it around his neck. Now you can see that you have courage. And he says the similar thing, what he's basically saying to him, and what the storyteller is saying to us, and what the hero's journey is saying to us, is everything you need, you already have. It's already inside you, but you need to look inside. Most of us have been trained to look for the answer outside of us, not inside. This society that we live in is a society that's obsessed with looking outside for the answers. The first step is to look inside. I know that no one has the answer for someone else. I don't have an answer for Aaron or Chris or anyone else. What I do have is some good questions, and I can tell you how to find your answer, but your answer will be very different than anyone else's because it's you, and you are different than everybody else. You have to learn to look inside. You have to believe that you have inside with you, for yourself, everything that you need. You can't find it by reading my book. You can't find it by listening to me. You can't find it by, if you're a cinematographer, by copying the world's greatest cinematographer. Then you'll just be him. The world already has him. They don't need another him. They need you. And that's a story that's told over and over and over and over again. But we all ignore it because we don't kind of get it. So what is the answer? I just gave you a tool. The answer is inside you. Ask your inside. Ask your little person. Ask the little Aaron or the little Chris or the little Keir. Write. When something's, here's the clearest way to know that something inside you is a big issue. When you have an emotional reaction to something way out of proportion to the reality of it, that's the best clue you have that there's something going on inside you.